What's going on, arcade nerds? Have you ever heard of a game called Turtleroids? Odds are most arcade collectors have not. In this video I want to talk about a part of Asteroid's history that is not so well known. Turtleroids was an Asteroid's ROM hack that is now long lost in time. But before we talk about Turtleroids, let's talk a bit about Asteroids and the Asteroid's creator, Ed Logg. Ed Logg was a programmer at Atari and set out to make a game of his own. His intentions was to make a new vector game after being inspired by a never-released prototype called Planet Grab. Anyway, so he contacted Atari engineer Howard Delman to create new hardware that can run his game. At this time, Atari already had a vector game called Lunar Lander. So it wasn't too bad with the hardware. They're actually very, very similar hardware. So in a matter of a few days, Howard modified a Lunar Lander PCB to Ed's wishes. Okay, so it turns out Asteroids was a big hit. In fact, Asteroids was such a big hit, at the assembly plant, the line would often shut down due to people playing Asteroids. So Asteroids was a much bigger hit than Lunar Lander. And because of all this, they actually stopped production of Lunar Lander and converted the remaining Lunar Lander cabinets into Asteroids cabinets to be sold, to ship out of the factory. Now here's a fun fact. Asteroids and Lunar Lander were the very first two video games to have ever been copyrighted. Anyways, so these Asteroids machines were selling like hotcakes. And to commemorate the 50,000th Asteroids machine to be assembled, a custom machine was built. And this machine was known as the Gold Asteroids. Now, this Asteroids machine was placed in the lobby at Atari. Okay? So, periodically at Atari, workers would meet to discuss new game ideas, and a game was often proposed called Turtle Races. And this game involved calling out to a turtle to come to you. And if your voice was too loud, the turtle would hide its head in its shell. But if you called out to the turtle just right, the turtle would walk forward. Well, the vice president of marketing at that time turned down this idea a few times already. He says, no more turtles. He's sick of hearing about all these stupid turtle ideas. He doesn't like it. Okay? So, as a joke, like an inside joke at the company, people would send him wind-up turtles in his drinks and so on. Make all kinds of you're just messing with him. Okay? So, Ed decided to join in on these practical jokes. Okay? So he altered the code on the Gold Asteroids machine in the lobby at Atari and added turtles. There were two different turtles there are two different versions of the turtle graphic. And these turtle graphics were substituted for the small and large UFOs or saucers. Okay? Now I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I could be wrong. I believe the original Gold Asteroids is now long gone and lost in history. But some say it may exist at the Midway Warner Brothers office in Chicago. But I don't think so. I don't have high hopes of that. I think it's gone. But anyways, but to this day, the original Turtleroids ROMs are lost in history. And anyways, so I read about this kind of stuff years ago, and I always thought, oh man, how cool would it be to get the Gold Asteroids? I'd love to have Gold Asteroids. And anyways, years I wish I had this. And I spoke to my friend Ralph Kornman about it. And he's a programmer, and he's a friend of mine. And as of a few days ago, me and Ralph once again made Turtleroids a reality. So let me talk a little bit about how mostly Ralph did the software side. All I did was, simplistic hardware stuff, okay? But there were some problems that needed to be addressed in order to make asteroids display turtles. And the reason why, you got to think about back then, in this time period, ROM space, those little chips that hold that data, ROM space was expensive. And most of the space was already used on the original chips. So at first we decided to remove some unneeded data, like the test screen and so on, and replace it with turtle data instead. But in the end, a decision was made, and I think this was the right decision, to just add an additional ROM chip to the board. Okay? And also, one of the program ROMs was altered to allow 2 different turtle graphics rather than simply change the scale of the UFO. See, if you're just going to change the scale of the UFO, you're only going to change one number. But instead, now it has to direct it to a whole different section of the ROM. Okay? These alternate graphics are now added to a previously unused vector ROM location. Luckily, since Asteroids was based on lunar lander hardware, there was still an addressable location already built right into the Asteroids PCB for an additional ROM chip. And there's a socket there and everything. Well, you have to add your socket, but there's a location already on the board. So these turtle graphics were copied from Ed's original drawings and act as per Ed's own instructions. So the turtle on its belly replaces the large saucer, and the turtle's side view replaces the small saucer. So, long story short, 40 years later, we can now finally play Turtleoids, just how Ed Log intended. So, soon I plan to build a full gold Asteroids tribute cabinet, but for now, here is some gameplay of Turtleoids. Well, we now enter my messy garage. There's an Asteroids machine there. This is the Asteroids we're going to play Turtleoids on. Speaking of, here's a video pinball. Speaking of the works of Ed. Oh, you know what? Millipede, speaking of the works of Ed, I believe I have or had owned every arcade machine that Ed Log has messed with, except for Steel Talons. There's another one I feel like I'm forgetting. But anyways, so far, I have made a golden bezel. So someday, this will be a full... Me and my wife literally just made this last night. This is obviously a regular old Asteroids, but it will be a golden Asteroids tribute cabinet at some point. But let's get this fired up and let's get going here.
You took your code and made a new game, and we have to mention Turtleoids.
It's not a new game. I just replaced one piece of artwork, and it's a list of points that they use for the spaceship that's changed to a turtle.
So, what was the impetus for that? Why did you make it a Turtleoids? Who was the target?
Frank Ballou was the target, because when we went to brainstormings once a year, every year, I think Mike Alba or somebody would propose the turtle racing game, which is a game where it's you have a turtle and you're trying to get him to move, and if you speak, he moves, and you have to increase your volume to get him to continue. But if you increase your volume too loud, he comes back in his shell and takes a while before he comes back out.
Oh my gosh.
And so finally get Frank Ballou, I think it was up in Napa, Sonoma, in one of the Pink Palaces, I think. He finally got up and said, "No more turtle games. I don't want to hear turtle anything." So he got wind-up turtles and put it in a drink and took the drinks to
Nice.
wind-up turtles. We did everything we could think of with turtles. And so finally said, "Hey, we had that gold asteroids. Let's put a turtle in it." So we had the gold asteroids, so I substituted the EPROMs for turtleroids.
Now, somebody's already asked this, but do the ROMs exist for Turtleoids, and where can we get them?
I do not know of any.
Yeah.
I have the original artwork for turtleroids, so if I had the source code, I could substitute those points for the saucer and it would work.
Well, we should send you the source code or something.
No,
let's do
what
it.
I should do is send you the picture of turtleroids. It's got coordinates.
And let somebody do it.
Yeah, that's something that I'm sure we could find somebody who would help out with that.
Right.
That'd be great.
In fact, I know a certain Jason Kopp would probably dig into that in about 2 seconds.
Well, and
if
would it
done
be
by
great?
tomorrow morning?
You could, Brian, you could do the marquees, and we could do a special cabinet. It'd be great. We could do like a turtle shaped cabinet. It'd
Yeah,
be
let's just get an asteroids cabinet, painted green.
So
You'd have to send a picture of that to Frank Ballou.
it'd be hilarious.
Well, guys, I guess that's it. It may sound a little corny, but thank you to Ed Log for making asteroids. It's as corny as that sounds, because asteroids is my favorite vector game ever, and it was because of asteroids that I got into the life-changing hobby that I have now. So, thank you for asteroids, and I hope at some point, Ed, you watch this video and can please give me some input on if anything needs to be changed or so on, or if it's to your liking and so on. Anyways, please subscribe and have a good day, guys.